All right. So I am not good at public speaking, and this is quasi public speaking because it's structured and linear, and hopefully there won't be too many ums or silence or brain farts in this. So I want to thank everyone who's listening to the first Teaching English in Korea discussion slash webinar, the Hagwon edition. So like I said, this is the first one in hopefully to be a short series of 4 discussions. When I first thought of the idea to do this, I only thought I'd be doing one, but that's because I only thought about my experiences, and my experience has been with Hagwons. But I realized that other people go to Korea to teach English at public schools. So after we do this discussion on Hagwons, there's going to be a second one, and that's going to be on public schools. Since I have no experience with public schools, hopefully I can get some guest speakers to come and talk about their experiences. And then I'm hopefully going to do a third one on university life, so for students living and learning in Korea, if I can get some guest speakers for that. And then there's going to be another one. The last one will be on the fun extra information that I don't know if I'll talk about here. Learning Korean while you're in Korea, K-pop stuff, fun anecdotes from our experiences living and working in Korea, and whatever else I can think of that'll be fun for everyone to listen to. So for this discussion, I picked the top 4 topics from the poll that I posted on Amona. I'm not going to do them in order of their highest percentage. I decided to put them in more chronological order so that it would make a bit more sense. So I'm going to introduce what a Hagwon is, and then we're going to talk about the recruiters, the paperwork process, settling into your apartment, or just settling into Korea, and the teaching environment. So those were the top 4 topics that everyone voted on the Amona website. So while I'm going through each topic, I know that your microphones are on mute. And if you have any questions, put them into the chat bar on the side. And once I finish talking about each topic, I will go through the questions if it hasn't already been addressed, and answer questions and move on to the next topic. So I want to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Amy, or my LiveJournal handle is Broadway_bound3. I'm 26 years old, going on 27 soon. I graduated university spring 2013 with a bachelor's degree in art history. So I hope that answers at least one question, that yes, you can go to Korea and work in a Hagwon without having an English or an education degree. As long as you have a bachelor's or higher, then you're fine. I had been studying art education to be an art teacher. I did that. I was studying it for 3 years, but then I changed my mind and I changed my major to art history. So I do have classroom and teaching experience before going to Korea. So after I had graduated from university, I had this really crappy job that the only reason that you take is because it pays the bills and it has a flexible schedule. And I thought I'd be stuck in that job for a while, but it was actually my dad who put the idea in my head to go to Korea to teach English. And I was kind of really apprehensive because I already had some bad experiences in the classroom, so one of the reasons why I changed my major. But I started looking into it, and long story short, I signed a contract and went to Korea February 14th, 2014. I stayed there. Obviously, I fell in love with it. The environment in the Korean Hagwon classroom is very different from an American public school classroom. I renewed my contract to stay another year, and in April, this past April, while I was in Korea, I found out that I had cancer, and I had to go into the hospital there, which is a lovely story that I'll save for another time. And at the end of April, I had to fly back to the United States to get chemo, to get my chemo treatment. But thankfully, I'm in remission now, and I'm actually in the process to go back to Korea. So hopefully in December, I'll be able to choose my campus at the same school that I was working at before, and then this coming February, I'll be going back to Korea. So that's a bit about myself. And I see I have a question, so I'll answer that now. I heard it's becoming hard to find teaching jobs in Korea, especially with public schools, but I heard Hagwons are different. Is that true? I did also see that getting a job in the public school is getting harder. I think the Ministry of Education cut some of, I don't know all the details, but I know they cut a lot of jobs for foreign teachers to teach in the public schools. Hagwons are different because it's not government money that pays for the teachers as opposed to public schools. It's actually the parents of the students that pay for the teachers. So as long as there are parents willing to pay for their students' extra English education, then there's going to be jobs for the foreign workers to come in and teach English. So I hope that answers your question. If we do the discussion on public schools, if we can get guest speakers to come, then we'll bring that up again and address it and see what their perspective is on it. Okay, so I also want to, I guess, clarify what a Hagwon is, because there's a lot of people that I've met who don't know what a Hagwon is. I think it's a concept that doesn't really exist in North America or maybe a lot of Western countries. When I explain it to the people that I meet and I talk about working in Korea, I explain it as a after-school school. So the students go to their public school from 7 or 8 till 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then once they finish that, maybe they get to go home and have a snack or do some homework or relax or whatever. Or maybe they go directly from their public school to the Hagwon. They stay at the Hagwon for maybe about an hour and a half to 2 hours with a break, obviously. And they have time with the foreign teacher, which would be myself, and they have time with the Korean teacher. We're not in the classroom at the same time, which I'll talk about more later. And then after their hour and a half or 2 hours, the student goes home, and they maybe go to the Hagwon a couple times a week. It's not every day. It's usually a couple times a week, unless the parent really, really wants them to improve their English, which I think is too much to be there every single day. And a Hagwon isn't just for English. The student could go to a Hagwon for music or science or math or history, or even probably Taekwondo would be considered a Hagwon. So yeah, that is a Hagwon. All right, so now moving on to the first official topic of the discussion, which is the recruiters. All right, so when you look into your recruiters to find a job in Korea, you have many options. There's many, many recruiters out there. If you do a simple Google search, you'll find just lists of them. Some of them are, of course, better than others. Or you don't even have to use a recruiter. If you know what Hagwons are in Korea and you know all the paperwork that you need to get done to go over there, you can directly go to the Hagwons website and probably apply directly, and you don't need a middleman. But the recruiter does make it a whole lot easier to find a Hagwon to work at. The recruiter themselves, like I said, works as the middleman. They interview you first to make sure that you're good enough, I guess, to be passed along to the Hagwon. And they work with several different Hagwons, not just one, so that you have a variety to choose from. The Hagwons pay the recruiters to find them teachers. You, as the teacher, do not pay the recruiter. If you find one that wants money, don't do it. Don't give them money. Find a different recruiter. It's the Hagwon that pays them. So I went with, my recruiter was Adventure Teaching, just because they had good reviews on forums and stuff. You can't trust the reviews on the actual websites because, of course, they're going to pick the best ones for their website. So do some research into different recruiters, find the ones with good reviews, obviously, and the ones that, that you like. And once you found one that you like, there's usually an application process. You fill out the application, and I think you probably attach your resume to it, and you send it off. They'll review it. If they like you, they'll do a Skype interview with you, and you're assigned one person who works at the recruiter, so that you have like a point man, I guess, that you can turn to when you have questions. So you do a Skype interview with them, and they'll ask, your experiences and why you want to go to Korea and all those other things. And if they still like you, then they're going to pass your information along to the Hagwons that they work with. So, and also if they like you, they're going to give you a little contract type thing. I still have mine from a couple years ago. The first one that I signed was for liability, and it says that if anything happens after you've already been placed in a school in South Korea and you're already there and something bad happens, that the recruiter is not liable for any of it. So, I mean, that's just safety on their part, and I had no problem signing that. That was whatever. There's another form that they had me sign, which was for consent to collect and use personal information. So, I mean, it's basically all the information that's like on your resume already. And it's basically saying I give the recruiter permission to send the information that's on your resume basically off to the Hagwons. So you'll sign those while you're waiting for the interviews to start. I didn't have interviews with the Hagwons themselves until late October, early November. I had interviews with 3 different schools. So the first 2 were Christian, and I think they could tell that I wasn't that Christian. The last interview that I had was with the school that I ended up working with, which is Avalon English, and the recruiter doesn't really tell you whether you got the job or not. It's like, I had an interview, I haven't heard anything for 2 weeks. Oh, I have another interview. I guess I didn't get the first job, so I'll just do this another interview. So I did the interview with Avalon English, and then they wanted a video of me mock teaching. I don't know if other Hagwons do this. It might just be Avalon English, but they want to see how you teach and I guess interact with these like invisible students in your video. So the recruiter passes along copies of some pages from a book that they actually use at the school. And you have to record yourself in like how you would dress as a teacher and pretend to teach this lesson to the camera and the invisible students. Upload it to YouTube, pass it along to the recruiter, and they check it for quality assurance, I guess. And if they like it, they'll pass it along to the Hagwon. If they don't like it, they'll make you do it again. I had to do mine again because apparently I wasn't wearing enough makeup, and I hate wearing makeup, but I did it again with more makeup on. So yeah, that is a thing. You hear about like beauty standards or something in Korea, and that was like one of my few encounters with that. But I guess they liked it because they hired me. I didn't find out that I had been hired until December, and I didn't sign my contract until the middle of January. The recruiter sends the contract, you sign it, scan it back into the computer, and send it over. Make sure that once you get your contract, you like save it to your computer, you print off a copy for yourself so you have like a hard copy of it. Oh, and make sure you read your contract because there's like very important things in there about sick days and your apartment and liability and requirements and this, that, and the third. So make sure you read it. Let's see. And then my recruiter works with a travel agency, and so they booked the flight for me. I didn't have to worry about it. All I did was pay for it, and I flew out on Valentine's Day. So that was my recruiter experience with adventure teaching. If you have any questions. Are Hagwons as sketchy and how they handle the foreign teachers, like contracts and hours, etc., as people say they are. All right, so where's my contract? I have the copy of my contract, both of them, in fact. I think just reading the contract by itself probably seems a little sketchy. And if I was going to work for this company for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I would definitely have problems with this contract. But being over there for a year or 2 years, I have no problems with this contract. And that's just my opinion. There are things in here that some people have problems with. So here's just right off the bat an example of, I guess, what some people would consider sketchy with the contract and the hours. And it says, where'd it go? The employee is required to attend events held by the employer, such as orientation workshops, year-end party, retreats, academic seminars, etc. An event could be held on a Saturday, but it will not be considered as overtime and will not be compensated. I've had plenty of orientations or like meetings that were held on Saturday mornings, and you don't get paid for them. We've had to attend events that are for the students, and it's basically an all-day event, and you don't get paid for them. Yeah, I wish we could get paid for it, but like I said, if I was working for this place for like 10 or 20 years, I would definitely have a problem with this. But I'm only there for a year, and that major event only was one time out of the entire year for the students, and so I went and I did it for the students because I love my students. The other foreign teachers complained. They could probably complain about it all day, but they just go, I don't know how to phrase it. The other teachers are just there for the money. I was there for the students. So I hope that was one example that can answer your questions. And of course, it's about opinion, and a lot of people would consider those sketchy. Other question: do you have any recommendations for recruiters? Well, I like the one that I was working with, and that was adventure teaching, and I think they do work in Canada and the United States. There are some other ones that look pretty good, but like I said, I only have experience with adventure teaching, so I can't really recommend any other recruiters. You kind of have to do your research. It's all, I think, opinion about which one's better than the other one, which is a lousy answer, so I'm really sorry. All right, so we're going to move on to the next topic, which is the paperwork, which is super exciting, so I'm really sorry that this is going to be really boring. But it's very important. Paperwork is very, very important. So the first thing that you need to get is your passport. If you don't have one, you should get a passport. I did not have a passport. I'd never been out of the country before, which was another reason why I was very apprehensive about going to Korea. I put in my application with the recruiter sometime in August. And then I put in my application for my passport around the same time. Because I figured if I changed my mind and I didn't want to go to Korea, I could always take my application out, like tell them to ignore it, and I'd have a passport, which comes in handy. You never know when you'll need a passport. So I heard that passports can take forever to get processed, so that's why I put mine in early. Mine didn't take that long. I got mine back 2 or 3 weeks after I sent in the paperwork. But you never know. There might be peak seasons for these kinds of things, so put in your application for your passport as soon as possible. The next thing that you should do is get a TOEFL certificate. This is optional. You don't have to get a TOEFL certificate. And the TOEFL is teaching English as a foreign language. They say that it looks better on your resume if you have it. I heard that if you have a TOEFL certificate, you could get paid more compared to like just going entry-level English teacher that doesn't have it. But honestly, I got the TOEFL certificate and I got paid the same as everyone else. I don't regret getting it, but if you don't want to pay for it, then you don't have to get it. But what the TOEFL certificate does, or at least the course, I took mine on bridgetefl.com or something along those lines, and you can pay for different hours. So I think there's like an 80-hour course and a 100-hour course and like a 140-hour course or something. And of course, they're all different prices. But in taking the course, you learn about the ESL classroom and how it's different compared to a regular American public school, everyone native English speaker classroom. It teaches you the problems that ESL learners might have, things like pronunciation problems or grammar problems and stuff like that. It also covers basic English grammar, things that a native English speaker, we kind of know intuitively, but we might have a hard problem explaining to an English learner. So it covers those, and it also teaches you how to make lesson plans. A lot of the Hagwons, you don't have to make lesson plans. They already have everything for you, which is great because I hate making lesson plans. But the TOEFL course teaches you how to do it anyway, and it gives you different situations to make the lesson plans for. And then you send them off to a real professor who grades it and gives you feedback. So I think the TOEFL program is pretty useful, actually, especially if you don't have experience in the classroom or as an English teacher or as anything like that. But yeah, it's optional. Another thing that you're going to need, obviously, is your resume, and you should already have that ready for the recruiter when you apply. Let's see. I actually have the papers still from when I was going through the process, and it lists, where is it? All the papers that you need, all the documents that you need for going to Korea and getting a job. So let's go through the list. You are going to need a copy of your university diploma. This copy, you take like your big original copy and you go find someone who has a really big scanner, like your university or a library or something, and you shrink it down to an A4 size paper. You can make one copy or two, it depends. If you want to play it safe, make two, just to have it. You need to take your copies to be notarized, which you have to look up usually libraries or, oddly enough, funeral homes do this. Take it to whoever has a notary. You give it to the person. You show them your original degree. They'll take the copy of it and they put like these 2 official stamps on it, and they fill in a lot of like information, time, date, their signature, stuff like that. That's the easy part. And then you have to go online, find who or where in your state does authentication. And you fill out a form, put the form and the copy of your diploma and whatever money that they're asking for into the envelope, ship it off, and they say, yep, this is super duper legit. Here's a paper that says it's legit. So you need to do that with your diploma. You need to get a criminal record check from the FBI. So you have to go to a police station that does fingerprinting, and you have to get your fingerprints done. Then you need to go on the FBI website. There's a form that you have to fill out. You print it off, fill it out. And you put that, the fingerprint card, and whatever money that they ask for, whatever amount of money that they ask for. And I'm pretty sure there's only one place that does this, and it's in West Virginia. You send it to West Virginia, and they will get your background check, and it's already automatically notarized, and they'll send it back to you. Once you get it back, you have to send it to the same place that you sent your diploma to make sure it's authenticated or apostille. The background check is probably the most annoying one because it takes forever. to get it back. I sent mine off because I had to do it again. I sent mine off like a month and a half ago or so, and I'm still waiting for it to come back. And then once it comes back, I have to send it to get authenticated. So it takes time. You need a lot of passport photos. Obviously, if you're going to apply for your passport, you need to get a passport photo for that. But you need like 8 or 10 passport photos because you need it obviously for your passport. But then you also need to send one to when you get your visa. You have to have some when you go to Korea. You have to have some for sending here and there and everywhere. So get as many passport photos as you can. You'll probably have to fill out E2 health statement, which is a paper that you print off online. And it's a self-assessment basically saying, I've had these shots in the past. I have these allergies to medication or whatever. I've had X, Y, and Z illnesses, but I'm fine, or that kind of stuff. So you have to fill that out. And those are just for sending to your recruiter. And then there's paperwork that you need for your E2 visa. And so for that, obviously you need your passport because they're going to put the visa in your passport, duh. More passport photos. You have to have a transcript from your university with your grades on it. And it needs to be sealed. If it's not sealed, then it's not official. So don't open them when you get them in the mail. Do not open them. They say get 1, maybe get 2 just in case. I know for public schools, you definitely need them. And you'll obviously need it for the E2 visa, but play it on the safe side, get an extra copy. And then you need your resume for the visa, and you have to send... It says on my adventure teaching paperwork that you need like $40 to $50 for your visa. I don't remember if that's exactly what I paid. But yeah, budget that much. So again, you'll need your diploma with the notarization and apostille or authentication. You need to get your background check notarized and apostilled. You need resumes, passport photos, the health statement, and your transcripts. So it's a lot of paperwork, and I would suggest getting on it as soon as possible. Sadly, for the E2 visa, you can't get it until after you've signed your contract. So for me, I signed my contract the middle of January, and I was supposed to be leaving a month later. So I only had a month to send it off and get it back. And there was a big snowstorm, and no one went to work that day for like days, and I was just very frustrated. Okay, so that's the paperwork. Does anyone have any questions on paperwork? I heard that if you get the apostille of your background check and or diploma, it only lasts 6 months. How do you time that with your job applications? Let's see. If you're working on your paperwork as you're going through the interview process, you'll have enough time. Because like I said, the FBI background check takes forever to get back. So by the time it does get back, you won't have to worry about it expiring in 6 months because you'll have to send it off right away once you get it. It'll probably be one of the last things that you have to check off your list of paperwork to send to whomever, and it'll be fine. The diploma, since it doesn't take as long, if you want to like wait a little while, you should probably allow yourself like 2 or 3 weeks to send it off and get it back from the apostille. You'll have time for that too. So I did a lot of the legwork, I guess you could say, around October, November, biting my nails the entire time, but everything came in time, and I didn't have to worry about anything expiring. But I mean, I would suggest maybe starting a little bit earlier than I did, like in September. But then it's September, October, November, December, January, February. You'll have time. That's 6 months. You have your background check. How long does it take to get apostilled? Well, I guess it depends on how far away the place of authentication is from where you live. Like, I live in Virginia, and I had to send it to Richmond, the capital, and that's like an hour up 64. So it really didn't take that long. I think it took about 2 weeks, but I sent it at like the end of the week, and then I got it back like at the beginning, not the next week, but the week after. So yeah. So yeah, it just depends on how far away you live from the place of authentication. Yeah. Any other questions? Nope. Awesome. Okay. Next topic. Get into the fun stuff now. Settling in, and that's fun stuff without sarcasm attached. Yeah. So, settling in. So this is settling into Korea, into your apartment. Get into the good stuff. I'm going to try and keep this chronological so that it's not as confusing. Before you even go to Korea, you need to look into getting a phone, because that's important, communication. So you have two options going to Korea. You can get a SIM card if you have a smartphone and it's compatible with SIM cards, and you can get the SIM card directly from the carrier in Korea. There's two major ones, and I know I'm going to get this wrong. I know one's Olay. I can't remember what the other one's called because I didn't use them. You can get the SIM card from them, and it can be shipped to your apartment or whatever address that you give them, like your school's address or something. And you'll have Korean phone number for your phone and access to whatever internet they provide. And that internet's going to be like all over the place, so you'll have internet everywhere in Korea, or at least in Seoul. The other option, you can also get a SIM card through a website called the Arrival Store, which is great for expats and teachers and people who are just traveling long-term or short-term through Korea. They provide SIM cards, and I think they go through Olay, but everything's going to be in English for you, all the billing. If you get a SIM card through them, they send it, you can pick it up at the airport when you get to Korea, which is great. You just pop it in there and you are connected. That's what I'm going to do this time because I finally have a smartphone. The first time that I went, I didn't have a smartphone before coming over, so I rented a phone through the Arrival Store. You can get smartphones, you can get what I call dumb phones, or like flip phones that don't use data or can access Wi-Fi. I rented a phone from them, and I had it delivered at my the motel room that I was staying in. I would say that if you're pinching pennies, go with the dumb phone. Don't get a smartphone, because of course smartphones are going to be more expensive. I also had a tablet when I went over there, so I used a service called Boingo, and you pay $10 a month, and you can get internet basically anywhere. So I tapped into the internet on, or the Wi-Fi that was on trains or buses or in public places or wherever, because internet is everywhere in Korea. And I think my bill for my phone plus the internet on my tablet was like $50 a month. And the SIM card through the Adventure Store, or the Arrival Store, the Arrival Store, is going to be about $90 a month. So you kind of have to look into your options and figure out how much money you want to spend, and how many devices you want to carry around, and how many phone calls you're going to be making. So yeah, get a phone. Once you get to Korea, I don't know if the other Hagwons do this, but my Hagwon had someone who came and picked me up along with two other teachers that were arriving that day, picked us up from the airport and drove us to our lodgings. In some cases, you will go directly to your apartment. In other cases, your apartment is not ready yet, and they will drop you off at a motel that you will stay at for a little while until your apartment is ready. My apartment was not ready because there were people still living in it, and I was waiting for them to move out. So I actually stayed at a Love Motel in a downtown area that was still close to the school. You will be exceptionally jet lagged. Where I live on the East Coast of the United States, there's a 13 to 14 hour difference depending on daylight savings time. And so I'd be okay until 5 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd get super tired. So don't drink any alcohol, get lots of sunlight, force yourself to be awake when you're supposed to be awake. Don't take any naps. The things that you're going to have to set up once you get to Korea will be your bank account. I recommend using KEB, the Korean Exchange Bank, because they do a lot of work with foreigners, obviously exchanging currencies and stuff. They also have a very easy program for you to transfer money from your Korean bank account to whatever bank account that you have at home. I would recommend keeping your home bank account open if you want to be saving money or if you need to send money home for any reason. I have student loans to pay off, and I can't pay them from Korea. It has to be coming out of my American bank account. So KEB makes it very easy to transfer money. You have to have your passport. I think you have to have your contract with your school. And I believe there might be one or two other things that you'll need to open your bank account. But the one thing that you do not need is money. You can go in there with no cash and open a bank account. There's no minimum deposit requirement. And you get those cute bank books that you see in the dramas, and people enter these huge books into the ATM machines. The next thing that you have to do is go for a medical check. So there's certain hospitals, you look up the hospitals in your area, and there's an area in the hospital that will do almost like a physical exam. They'll test your eyesight, they'll take your height and weight, they'll take blood, and they'll probably poke and prod you in a couple other ways that I can't remember right now. You'll need one of your passport photos for that also. And it costs about $100. It's a bit pricey. But you have to get it done because it has to be sent to the Ministry of Education. You have to get your ARC, which is your alien registration card. It's basically your Korean ID card, and so they're blue. Obviously, it has your picture on it, name, and they give you a official number. So it's like an American Social Security number, so they can track you down with a number if they need to. It also has where you're from, what visa you are using right now, your home address, and when the card expires. So it costs money to get the ARC, I know it's less than $100, but it's still kind of pricey. I know to get it renewed, it costs 60,000 won, so about $60. You won't get your ARC that day. You have to come back and pick it up, or they can send it to you, but it won't be for 2 or 3 weeks. So you have to go to immigration. You need to have paperwork from your school saying that they're a legit business. So you have to have the school's business license. I think you have to have your contract with the school. You have to have your passport, of course. And then there's some other paperwork that you have to have, but the school will tell you what you need before you go there. And of course you need money. Cash. They only accept cash. Once you get your ARC, then you can get internet for your apartment if you so choose. You can't get internet without your ARC. You have to have that special number on it. And internet is super fast over there. It's great. And of course all this costs money. I've been mentioning how much things cost. When you go to Korea, I would recommend bringing a lot of cash. Maybe $1,000? Sounds like a lot. But like I said, you're paying for your medical, you're paying for your ID card, you're paying for food. You have a lot of food. You're paying if you want to go shopping. If you want to go out and see Korea, it costs money. So I would recommend getting probably about $1,000. I did not bring that much money with me the first time because I didn't feel comfortable carrying that much cash on me. And a couple weeks in, I had to use the global ATM, and almost all of the banks have at least one ATM for global use, so you can use your card in there. But there are these huge fees that are attached to withdrawing money from your home account. So I would recommend not. Also, before going to Korea, tell your home bank that you're leaving the country, so that when you do go to Korea and you buy something with your American card, it doesn't get blocked. So the bank doesn't think that someone stole your card and went to another country and started like, woo, spending money. Let your bank know what's going on. What else? Public transportation. You're going to need a card for that. And once again, you're going to need money for public transportation. I've been to New York City. Korea is nowhere near as expensive as New York City is for using the subway or the taxis or the bus. You can go to any corner store type thing. They have 7-Elevens there. You can go to the 7-Eleven and you can pick up one of these cards. They have different designs. This one is a T-Money card. I think there's another one called like a B card or something. They're nice and hard. It's a nice thick plastic like an ID card, as opposed to the flimsy paper ones in New York City. And these do not expire. You pay, mine was $2.50. They do not expire. They're rechargeable. You go into a subway station and they have machines set up. You put the card on the machine. It scans it, tells you how much is on there, and you put X amount of money on it. It charges up and you have money now to put on your card. And actually, you can use these for subway. You can use these for the bus. And some taxis accept this also, but always carry cash when you think you're going to be riding in a taxi, because you never know. The machines that they use in there don't always work sometimes. You can also, my T-Money card also works at Baskin-Robbins. It works at McDonald's, Etude House, Home Plus, the bookstore. I could use this in many places. And your apartment. The most important thing, your apartment. Most of the time, I'm pretty sure 99% of the time, you don't have to worry about paying rent. I didn't pay rent. I didn't have to worry about key money. The only things that I paid for my apartment were the utilities every month, which can range from like $70 to like $140. It depends on how much you use, like the electricity and the floor heating and water. So just the utilities. And then of course, if you get internet, you have to worry about paying the internet too. Most of the apartments, if you are getting a brand spanking new, no one's lived in it before you apartment, it will have a bed. It might have a toaster oven like mine did. It'll have a desk. And I think that's it. I think the Hagwon that I worked for gave a TV as a gift. And they also gave welcome home housewarming type packages from the Arrival store that had essentials in it. But that was like really nice of them, and I wouldn't expect other Hagwons to do it. I don't know. So I think that's it for the settling in part. Any questions? No questions? I know I went through it really fast. You're gonna be like in such a frenzy the first couple weeks of being in Korea, because especially if you're like me, you're not even in your apartment and you have to get all this stuff taken care of. And along with that, you have to go to these orientations in the morning. My orientation was like 2 hours away because I had to be at HR at the headquarters, which was 2 hours away from me. I was like the farthest campus. Out of all the campuses, I was the farthest one away, outside of Busan. You're going to these orientations that could last forever, and then once you're done with the orientation, you have to go directly to the school. And then if you're not doing an orientation, you're going to the bank or to the hospital or to immigration or, you know, wherever to get stuff done. And then you have to move in. You have to take care of all of that. So it's, the first couple weeks are super exciting. All right, did you live in the city or rural area? I like to call the area that I lived in a suburb of Seoul. I lived in Ilsan, which is northwest of Seoul, up the Han River, and it was 45 minutes away from Hongdae, which I consider like the closest part of Seoul. And it was 45 minutes away by subway or train or whatever you want to call it. So I guess it was a city. It was quiet. I liked Ilsan. I like quiet, and it wasn't super far away from stuff, but it wasn't out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm kind of hoping to get that kind of place, that kind of location again, second time around. Any other questions? I don't plan on being a teacher, but I do plan on living in Korea working as whatever I decide to study in college. Do you know anything about getting a job just to make a little money at first? There are listings online for jobs that aren't teacher jobs, but they're all very like executive director or management or stuff like that. Getting a part-time type of job, I think, would be pretty difficult for a foreigner, especially if you don't know Korean. I don't know if you know Korean or not. My Korean base is pretty not that good, so I know I wouldn't be able to get a job. And you'd have to look into the type of visa that you get, because if you're studying, I'm not sure if the visa would allow you to work at the same time, also be working. Because I know the E2 visa, the teacher visa, I'm only allowed to work for the school that I signed the contract with. I wasn't allowed to do any other work besides that. So I hope that answers your question. If we do, if I can get someone who is a student in Korea or has had experience as a student in Korea for one of the discussions, then we can talk about that and see what they have to say about that. Now, our last topic is the teaching environment, which I think is going to be a lot of fun to talk about. I have a lot of anecdotes. I'll try not to bore everyone with them. So some points that I just thought of about the teaching environment, and here you can definitely ask whatever questions. This topic is very open, is way less structured than the other three. The points, I only wrote down 3 points for this one. I've heard from other people who have taught in Korea that there's like a makeup requirement, that females have to wear makeup and they have to be wearing nice clothes and they have to have their hair done up really nice every day, and that definitely did not happen at my school. The head teacher before me wore sweats and no makeup, and I hate wearing makeup, so I only put makeup on for Halloween and I think maybe one other event, I don't remember, and no one ever said anything about it to me. I think if I was like forced to wear makeup, I would be very upset and I wouldn't do it. And I think Hagwons are probably less strict on how you dress. Obviously, like I said, the other teacher was wearing sweats and I wouldn't do it. I wore jeans, sometimes sneakers, sometimes I'd wear t-shirts if I was feeling exceptionally lazy. Other times I dressed up really nice, just depending on my mood, and no one cared either way, except like the students would be like, oh, teacher's wearing a dress today, and teacher's so pretty, and I'm like, but I'm always pretty. So makeup requirements, yeah, that's annoying. I think someone on Amona brought up speaking English versus speaking Korean in the classroom, or just in the school in general. The Hagwon is, especially once the student is in the classroom, once class has officially started, after the bell rings, you're in there, it is a English-only environment. It is full immersion for them. I, 99% of the time, did not speak Korean to my students. I know some, and I can like eavesdrop on some of their conversations when they're speaking in Korean, but I didn't tell them that I knew Korean, only English, because my fear, especially with like students that misbehaved a lot and didn't feel like paying attention and doing their work, my fear was that if they knew that I was speaking Korean, then they wouldn't bother speaking English. And they're there to learn English. The only time that I spoke Korean was with my very tiny students. And I call them tiny because they're usually like kindergarten or first graders. And they don't even know their ABCs. They know nothing. So if they needed something, they'd be like, 선생님, 선생님. And I'm like, you have to say teacher, teacher, 선생님. And they'd be like, okay, teacher. And if they'd be like, 물, I need to go get water. And I'd be like, water, 물, water. And they'd be like, okay, water. And I'd let them go. Or, 화장실, 화장실, I have to use the bathroom. And I'd be like, 화장실, bathroom. And they get it. But that was like once. I'm pretty sure I only did that once or twice the entire time I was there. I don't do it with any student that's above that level because they need to be they're there to learn English. I feel sorry for them, but they need to do it. Another thing I guess I want to talk about for teaching environment would be classroom management. Teachers and non-teachers always have this worry. I did, my coworkers did, about how to manage these classrooms. A lot of schools, let's see, what I was told when I first got to the school was if you have a problem with students that are misbehaving, not paying attention, speaking Korean when they're not supposed to, get a Korean teacher because you are alone in the classroom. It's just you and the students and the CCTV that's watching you. If you're having a problem, get the Korean teacher, one that's not busy, or we call them desk teachers. They're like secretaries / nurse / assistants, and they sit near the front door of the school behind desks. Call them desk teacher. Anyway, we get them, and they'll discipline the student. If you don't want to discipline the student, basically you don't have to, but it's really annoying to like pause class and go out and get someone when sometimes you could probably just do it yourself and be just as effective. So let's see. That's what they tell you for like the discipline in the classroom, but most of the time I took care of it myself. I was nervous at first, but I got over it, and I became like, when I get upset at the students for not behaving, I get really quiet, and then they notice that you've stopped and you're staring at them, and they're like, teacher, angry teacher, teacher's angry, Amy teacher's angry, stop, stop it. And they'll quiet down, and then you pick up where you left off. We also had a point system at our school, so if students were misbehaving, we'd take their points away, and of course if they did like good things, like answer questions and stuff, we'd give them points, and a lot of students really liked their points, because they'd get candy, but other times students didn't care anymore about candy, so they would mess up, or like not pay attention or speak Korean. You take their points away, and they really don't care. Let's see. I know it's supposed to be classroom management. I'm talking a lot about discipline. I feel like discipline is very important, though. Something that I learned from teaching in public school in America is like, you're not supposed to touch students because it could be misconstrued as sexual harassment. And I mean, yes, but other times, what? So when I get upset at a student in my Korean classroom, I do not touch them. One, because there's a camera watching, and a student can go, Amy teacher touched me and hurt me when she was mad at me, and you don't want that. So if I'm upset at a student, I do not touch them. I will touch their desk. I might touch their books or their backpack, but I do not touch them. If a student is really misbehaving, and this is like a student who has misbehaved several times, not just, I'm taking one of your points away, can you please be quiet? No, this is, I've told you several times that you need to not speak Korean and pay attention. with that kind of student, I usually threaten to kick them out of the classroom, which you're not really supposed to do, but I never got in trouble for it, so I did it anyway. I probably shouldn't be saying that. But I would tell the students, if they kept misbehaving, I would call their parent and I would tell them that they're wasting their money on sending their student to a Hagwon and that they can stop. And students might not be afraid of you, they might not be afraid of the Korean teacher, but they are probably definitely afraid of their parents. So you can use that against them. Other classroom management stuff. Games. There's sometimes there's not always time to play a game in the classroom because you have to get X, Y, and Z papers done or bookwork done in like a 15-minute class. But if you do have time, students love games. I usually played Hangman or Pictionary or charades. All these games, they have to be like related to English in the class material, so I would make them. They loved Pictionary, and they would draw out their vocabulary words, and they loved that, and I'd give them points for it. Some teachers will mix in games while they're learning. I'm more of a finish your work and then we'll play games kind of person, but everyone's different. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I'm missing that I should be talking about. Does anyone have any questions? Maybe questions? I feel like teaching environment's a pretty broad subject, and so there's plenty of stuff that I could talk about, but I don't want to make people sit here all night. No? Okay.